I want to begin by saying how incredibly thankful I am to be surrounded by a team who believe in a cause equal, if not greater, than I do. Our immigration efforts in Newfoundland and Labrador have been deliberate, have been targeted, and have been enormously successful. They've also been necessary. Our population faces a crisis of reduction, of diminishment. Our population has been declining. It has been declining for decades, and deliberately that needed to change. Otherwise, the economic, the social, the well-being of our province would also decline. So while immigration may not have been on the historic spotlight or platform for the province and the government in past years and past decades, it certainly has been of this government. And again, out of necessity. Our population has been declining. And you cannot grow an economy or a prosperous, successful society without, first off, diversity, but also growth in our skills and in our general and in our neighborhoods. So with that said, we deliberately took on a strategy to grow the population with not only encouraging people to stay, not only encouraging expats, Newfoundlanders and Labradorians to come home, but obviously and clearly one of the major targets has always been attracting newcomers, people from distant lands, to choose Newfoundland and Labrador as their place to live, the place to settle, and a place to raise their families. I'm very proud of the success we've had in that in recent years. We've actually seen over the last number of years, just recently, our population, according to Statistics Canada, we have been growing, reversing a decades-long trend of decline. We've seen new skills enter our province. We've seen healthcare workers, early childhood educators, people in the construction trades, people who are providing services, necessary services to us all. I have to say the purpose of this briefing today is that there is an existential threat against our successes, and that is a decision by the federal government to fundamentally remap the immigration newcomer landscape across the entire country. The government of Canada has, after much enthusiasm, decided to change course dramatically in recent months, moving away from previous targets, previous welcoming for newcomers, and have been very restrictive. Newfoundland and Labrador has been caught in that nationwide web. And I say that very specifically because while the national prescription may or may not be necessary for the nation, it is definitely not the right prescription for Newfoundland and Labrador. The circumstances across the country are very different. 23% of all Canadians, according to Stats Canada, or people resident in Canada right now, are first-generation newcomers. In our province, it's less than 3%. Our housing situation is very, very different, far more resilient than the national circumstance. Our unemployment rate of newcomers is below the average unemployment rate for our entire province. Newcomers are integrating very successfully. We've been able to do this by special initiatives, whether it be really putting our back into supporting the Syrian government-assisted refugee initiative, whether it be our groundbreaking Ukrainian initiative, and as well deliberate and targeted missions attracting newcomers all over the world, and including from just a recent mission that we went to in the United Kingdom, attracting healthcare workers, attracting doctors, and attracting other important skills. So with that said, recent changes by the federal government have limited our ability to attract. We have less spaces today than what we did in 2024. Now, the reason why I'm really raising this up is because we will experience, and you will in the media and across the entire province, you will hear concerns, legitimate, genuine concerns from newcomers who feel caught in a web an unwelcoming web. An unwelcoming web. There are literally thousands of newcomers in Newfoundland and Labrador whose work permits are about to expire. There are literally thousands of people in our province or looking to come to our province who would otherwise enjoy a provincial nomination, either through the provincial nominee program or through the Atlantic Immigration Program, who will not be successful in getting one. Not by way of lack of desire to have them and their skills by the government and the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, but because we have been cut in those spaces by Canada. That has led us to an unfortunate and necessary situation where we have been caught up in this as a province. We have been caught up in that we've had to move to, by necessity, an expression of interest program. We have less spaces, we have unfilled jobs, we have employers who want to provide newcomers with safe space and good employment, and they do not have the entitlement, because of Canada's action, to be able to do that, because Canada has reduced our places, our spaces, our potential to nominate. And what you will hear from that is that people will justifiably feel, newcomers to Newfoundland and Labrador will feel justifiably, in my opinion, they'll feel betrayed. They will feel as though there was a commitment, a handshake that was offered to them, that we were a welcoming province. What has happened? What exactly has happened? What has happened? We are still every inch a welcoming province. We want them. We need them. And we want them as our neighbors. We are one of the most welcoming provinces in all of Canada. But because of the limitation on spaces, we've had to prioritize healthcare workers, early childhood educators, skilled workers in the construction trades and others. That is not a commentary on the value of the person who works in food service or in certain healthcare professions such as personal care. That has no bearing on anything about commenting on the quality of that person. We have been forced to prioritize to the professions and the people who are directly involved in frontline healthcare, early childhood and education, and other skilled trades as well. The economy is more complex than just that, but that obviously is one of our most driving circumstances. So my plea today is for all of the province to recognize that immigration makes us stronger. I have no trouble in saying that resonates everywhere. Immigration does make us stronger, and employers and community leaders and people in the community who support and help newcomers, they know that. But we're in a situation where, as of 2024, we had 3,000 immigration spaces assigned to our province. We were cut to 1,500, 50% cut. We were able to negotiate a return of 1,000 spaces to 2,500 for 2025. There are absolutely no guarantees whatsoever that that will resume in 2026. I will be meeting with my federal counterpart, Minister Diab, in the coming weeks to make this case more clear, that the Canadian prescription cannot be the Newfoundland and Labrador prescription. I hope that Minister Diab, coming from Nova Scotia, can recognize that and will act accordingly. The Federation, the strength of the Federation depends on it. But we have an issue, and it's a solvable problem. It is very solvable. Canada needs to respect that this province, the 10th province, and the mightiest province, our issues, our circumstance, are not the same as the other 9. Stats Canada is still to this day forecasting a population decline in our province to 2049 if some actions are not taken. No other province in Canada faces that dilemma and such a dire forecast. We are the only province in Canada. If our federation is not strong enough to be able to act on the necessities of all members of our federation, of our Canadian federation, then our federation is weaker. Canada must act, and act quickly, to give confidence and security to the newcomers who are in our province, who want to come to our province, that they are welcomed not only by Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, but by all of Canada. And the consequence of not doing that by Canada is that we are in serious trouble as a province and therefore as a country. There will be jobs in healthcare, in education, in construction, and other important fields that will go unfilled. There will be businesses that will either close or reduce hours. There will be homes that will not be built. There will be healthcare that will not be provided, and we will be weaker. But there is a solution, and I intend to focus on the solution, which is Canada, do what's right, give us our spaces back, and more besides. So with that said, you will hear and you will be confronted with very heartfelt human stories, human interest stories, which will tell you, and rightfully so, the feelings that newcomers have in our province that they're being abandoned, their work permits are about to expire, they're no longer being accepted for a provincial nomination. They will feel very, very anxious, frustrated, and conflicted. I empathize every step of the way with exactly how they feel, and I'm putting every ounce of energy I can into correcting it. But it's Canada who created this, and Canada must correct it. I do not control work permits. I did not set the limits that only nominees to provincial pathways, 75% of all nominees now to provincial immigration permanent residency pathways must come from the pool of temporary residents. That does not meet our needs and our circumstance. Our number of temporary residents in Newfoundland and Labrador are relatively very small. And we were not the ones who cut the number of international students coming to MUN and CNA and other institutions. Canada did this. And I will not comment on the necessity or value or wisdom of how that applies in the rest of the country. I don't have that judgment. I do have a judgment as to how it applies in Newfoundland and Labrador, and it was a really, really poor prescription to impose on the province, the one province who's embraced immigration, needs immigration, welcomes newcomers, and values their contribution, while at the same time recognizes that without newcomers, we will be far worse off. So my call is to my colleagues in the legislature, as have seen in the past, and it seems to have been slipping a little bit in more recent years, we need immigration. Help me be part of the team that brings this forward to make these changes necessary. And I will ask members of our Fourth Estate to recognize that the problems, I beg you to highlight their stories. Please bring their stories forward, but recognize within that sphere, within that realm, Newfoundland and Labrador is begging Canada for more immigration spots, to reduce the restrictions on work permits, to allow more international students to be here, and to become more welcoming as a nation when it comes to Newfoundland and Labrador, to join us in that effort. I'm prepared to take any questions you may have.
So you talked about 2,500 is too few. What's the number that you would like to see? What do you think this province needs to do?
Stats Canada tells us that 9,000 newcomers will be required to get a 1% population increase in Newfoundland and Labrador over the long term. Now, we are very deliberate, and I want to be very clear before that becomes Gerry Byrne's calling for an immediate 9,000 spaces. We will graduate to that level. Our objective is seamless integration, solid performance within the job, within the workforce, good results in terms of housing, solid education opportunities for families. That's always been the objective and always will be the objective. And that's what makes us very different than other provinces. We are best at making that total wraparound integration work. But the reality is, a few decades ago, Newfoundland and Labrador's population, 3 babies were being born for every 1 person that died. That's a stark, I know, that's a stark statistic. We're talking about, people who died. 3 people were born, and it went for one person passing away. 15 years ago, we had 2 people born for every 1 person, 1 baby that was born. Two babies were born for every 1 person that passed away. Today, it's 1 for 1. We are losing a person for every baby that's born, and tomorrow we will basically be in very much negative growth, very negative growth. So we need, over the course of the next several years, we need to grow our population, our newcomer intake and welcoming by 9,000. That's not going to happen today. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen when it can be done seamlessly and appropriately and very compassionately for everyone. But we are capable of doing it.
So in the short term, though, like next year,
we'd like to see 3,000, a minimum of 3,000. We would advocate that we could easily have 4,000 newcomer spaces in Newfoundland and Labrador, and be very, very successful, targeted, and without the same kinds of anxieties that may be accruing in the rest of the country. We can do this very appropriately. In Newfoundland and Labrador, our newcomer unemployment rate is lower than the provincial average. Why? Not because they're taking jobs from people. They're bringing in skills. We're deliberately targeting newcomers who have skills for jobs that are not able to be filled at home by Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. Truth. That's true in health. That's true in education. We're spending $140 million a year, $140 million a year upskilling Newfoundlanders and Labradorians in post-secondary trades and vocations. We're growing our skill base of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, but we recognize that there's still going to be jobs left unfilled. Our unemployment rate of newcomers in our province is lower than the provincial average.
When people hear this plea, oftentimes at home they'll say, is there enough housing to support new residents? As so many Newfoundlanders and Labradorians don't have a family doctor. What do you say to those concerns? We
just recruited three doctors, 3 specialists. That's who our pool of doctors, our healthcare workers, will become, in addition to the increases in Memorial University of Newfoundland's medical programs, increases to our nursing programs, increases to all of our health care professions, training for them. That's who will be providing a lot of our health care, are those skills that were trained outside of the country at their expense. A specialist, I'll give you an example. This is really... It costs, just to put it in a fabric of a cost, it costs about $500,000 to educate a GP. We could attract a GP from outside, then that's not $500,000 spent by Newfoundland and Labrador taxpayers. It costs about $1 million to educate a specialist. We have 3 specialists coming from the UK. 3. That's what Health and Community Services have informed me because of our attraction efforts. That's $3 million of talent that's coming to Newfoundland and Labrador that we are taking advantage of. That's a good return on investment. And that's one of the reasons why we're in the UK. That's one of the reasons why we're doing innovative things, innovative programming to expand our outreach, to get people to become aware of Newfoundland and Labrador as a great place to live, and it's working.
Why can't we, or why don't we, perhaps a better way of asking that, have local people that can fill these jobs?
We do. We do have local people who are signing up to College of the North Atlantic, to the Marine Institute, to our private education institutes. They have full classes. But when you have a declining population, you still have the consequence of an economy which is rapidly growing, both in reality and in prospect, because of our major projects. We will still be with a shortage. Remember, 1990, Newfoundland and Labrador had a population of 580,000 souls. 580,000. Today we have a population of 535,000. That's why the mix needs to be a combination both of generating new skills within multi-generational Newfoundlanders and Labradorians while attracting new skills at the same time.
I guess what we're trying to ask, though, is that the public mood has undoubtedly shifted in a big way in the past, say, 3 years. And
Yeah.
there's much more anti-immigrant sentiment across the country, and even here, than there has been 3 years ago. So people are going to hear you, and they're not going to react the same way they did 3 years ago. They're going to react very negatively to this. And how do you, as a politician, how do you internalize that, or how do you make that case that this is required when the first thing that you're going to hear outside this room is someone saying, we should have those jobs, people from UK, wherever, shouldn't get those jobs?
The way I'd answer the question of how do you rebut fallacy and how do you rebut notions which do not hold up in fact or practical reality? Courage. Courage to be a leader. Courage to stand up and say what is the truth. Courage to say what needs to be said. I understand there are serious issues in housing. There are serious issues in provision of health care. Our government has acted on all fronts to move forward to improve those circumstances. But it also cannot be that leaders of our province stand by and allow populist, untruthful fiction to take hold. In Newfoundland and Labrador, less than 3% of our province are newcomers. Less than 3%. Don't blame the entirety of a situation on 3% of the population. You know what that speaks to? And I won't even say it here. So I want everyone to circulate it in their minds. When someone starts to target such a small group of people, but an important group of people, as the cause of all problems, we have seen that before, and I will not stand for it. I will say there's a national public figure who just a few days ago came out and said that Canada should shrink its population, feeding that mentality, feeding that notion that our problems are created by elsewhere and by others. Immigrants are what makes us stronger. Immigrants are who are providing many of our important healthcare services. That was true 40 years ago with the wave of Irish and English doctors and others. Now we're just simply looking to expand it beyond Ireland and England. Be clear-minded about what the real problem is, and be clear-minded about why someone may be saying contrary to that. What is their agenda? Listen, we are not Canada. We are very different in every way, shape, and form. The national prescription and the national attitude should not be our prescription nor our attitude. And that's why I am here today, to simply embody a part of that leadership joined by others. I need the business community. I need community leaders. I need activists to come forward and say, this is the right thing. Let's really not target our problems on less than 3% of our population. People who are most vulnerable and people who need our help the most.
Well, we've been having this conversation about a reduction in our immigration spaces for I think close on a year now. I think it was last fall when this first came out, and you and Minister Studley before you have been bringing this message to Ottawa, and there hasn't been any movement. So, what gives you optimism that there will be movement now?
I have to disagree with the premise. Is that there has been movement. We were very successful. Minister Studley was successful in, going from when Canada made the decision to move us from a 3,000 nominee platform, 3,000 to 1,500. It was Minister Studley and the team at Office of Immigration at JIG, at Jobs and Immigration and Growth, that provided a countermeasure, a counteroffer, and we increased by another 1,000. So we went to 2,500. That offer is not being extended, to my knowledge, beyond December 31st of 2025. So that's why I'm here. If you like, be direct about this. 2 reasons why I'm here talking to you today. To ensure there's clarity about, there is no uncertainty about whether or not we're going to have those spaces in the future. That needs to be addressed before December 31st of 2025. We've had success in amending that. We can have success again. There is a concern that I have that newcomers themselves will start to lose faith, because they will be coming forward indicating that there appears to be a broken promise, a broken contract. I came here in good faith. I came to study at Memorial University of Newfoundland and Labrador. My work permit they're not granting me a post-graduation work permit. They're not granting me a work permit. They're telling me that I cannot participate in the provincial nomination pathways. What is happening here? I am very frustrated by that, and I'm telling you now, if I were king for a day, if I could snap my finger, that would not be the case.
I want to ask you about the criticism because, people look at, for example, the housing market, and, housing prices are up about 8% year over year. More people need more housing. That's obviously going to put pressure on the housing system even further. From your comments a minute ago, for people who are criticizing, who might be saying, hey, we should be bringing in the same or fewer, having those discussions, is it really about the issues, or you seem to indicate there a minute ago that it was actually more racism that may be driving that argument?
I'm not sure if it's racism. I know that it's there is dog whistle politics involved at the national level. You saw that during the national federal election. You saw it coming out of the states. There is a certain amount of xenophobia that does exist in North America. Deny that if you will. I'm saying that rhetorically. There is a certain amount of xenophobia. I really do believe that Newfoundland and Labrador is very much different from that. And that's why I have great faith. So I'm not here pointing fingers and saying that Newfoundlanders are being xenophobic. What I am saying is that when you hear a repeated message over and over and over and over and over again, talking about the damage of immigration, talking about how it's costing us, how it's reducing our standard of living, when you hear that message being repeated from a distance over and over and over again, it has to be confronted with truth. The truth is that who's going to build those houses? Not only skilled trade workers from Newfoundland and Labrador, but newcomers as well, bringing their skills with them. Who's going to be providing us healthcare services in our hospitals, in our clinics, and in our doctors' offices? Who's going to be some of our doctors? Newcomers. Who's going to be helping to educate our children who have top-class training in education that they achieved with foreign credentials in great universities around and colleges around the world? Newcomers. Newcomers are part of the solution. It's very easy to ban them as part of the problem. And I am here in a notion of some leadership to confront that. And you are right. You are right, and you are right. The moment I walk out through that door, that message will be challenged. I don't care. I do care. But for me personally, I can take it. My job is just to be the voice of reason and truth, and to protect people who deserve to be respected and trusted. And those are our newcomers.
In order for the province to get up to 9,000 new immigrants a year, the provincial government has a responsibility to ensure that the conditions are in place that they can be supported. How much more does the province need to do on healthcare, housing, and other issues in order to be able to get to that level?
Your question does seem a little bit circular in the sense that what it has to do is actually have the people to be able to provide those basic services, those important essential services. I'm making the case immigration is part of that solution. So it is the entire continuum must be just that, a continuum. So government is providing literally hundreds of millions of dollars into new housing stock. Government is providing literally millions and millions and millions of dollars. We've seen in Central more childcare spaces opening. So we are responding to the reality of all of those social needs within our province. We're doing so to the very, very best of our ability. We will continue to do more, but always having this conversation as if we had less newcomers, the problem would solve. I make the case very clearly that has never been an economic theory that has ever been proven. In fact, newcomers generate jobs, they generate activity, they generate well-being, they generate a higher standard of living. Canada is a nation of immigrants. It's one of the reasons why we're a member of the G7. Newfoundland and Labrador has never been a province of, in recent years, of immigrants. We were a province of Indigenous people, and we were a province of an Irish, Scottish, and UK wave. But in terms of where we are today, we need to be a province that's proud to be diverse, because we will be stronger for doing so. Got to end this circular kind of argument that with more immigrants we suffer, because without immigrants we suffer. It just does not mesh. Not when less than 3% of your population are newcomers. Stop blaming the 3%. You know where that gets you.
What was the inciting incident for you today? Like, why now? Why today are you making this case?
I'm hearing more and more voices from our newcomer community that are very upset with the consequences of these decisions, and I need them to feel welcomed. I need them to know that there are people on their side. That's why I did this today. But I also did this today because I need others to step up with me, to make the case to Joanne Thompson, to Minister Diab, to the federal government, not only that this is why we need to do this, but also to be that leadership for us and with us, counteracting the potential negativity that may seep in over the course of time. When you hear a message over and over and over and over again with nobody counteracting it, that message becomes true, even when it's false. And that's why I'm here today.
There's also a certain point at which the population pyramid here reaches an inversion, right? Because we have an aging population and the number of seniors getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The number of people who are 55 or 65 are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. At a certain point, there's going to be a threat to public services, right? If the under 65 population doesn't grow. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
You said there will get a point where there will be a threat to public services?
Yeah.
There is already a threat to public services. We need more doctors, we need more nurses, we need more public care attendants, we need more educators. We are already there. So, there will be businesses that will, reduce hours. There will be businesses that close because of lack of staff in various locations. And remember, this is not a St. John's issue. Almost 45% of all newcomers are outside of St. John's.
If you do get the 3,000 spaces next year, how many of them would be already living in the province? And how many would be from outside?
Listen, that's a hypothetical question.
Is that a target that you should be aiming for? Because, a lot of people see 3,000 newcomers next year and they think 3,000 new people are going to be coming to the province when a significant portion of that is going to be already living in the province.
Yeah, that's you actually make a very valid adjustment to my thinking based on your question, which is the vast majority of our recruitment is actually already people who come to MUN, come to CNA, for education, get trained with, use at their own expense at our institutions to get a top quality education and then seek to live here. That has really been a focus of our attention. A significant proportion of our newcomers are already those that are already here, and I have members of the opposition who are calling me and saying, "Listen, there's a chap down in Chapel Arm." I'm making that up, but there are opposition members who say to me, I know somebody who's a newcomer, who's a racialized newcomer, who really wants to stay here. How come you're stopping them from staying here? And I have to repeat that answer that I just gave today to members of the House of Assembly. That's why I'm here, because maybe that message is not being made clear, that there are people here, that people who you've come to come to be proud and welcome as your neighbors, and you're going to see them very vulnerable, feeling very rejected, and you're going to ask, why are you doing this? And I need to make that explanation.